So let's talk about the absolutely dramatic capture of the Venezuelan dictator Nicolás Maduro. I mean, this was a moment that sent shockwaves not just through Latin America, but really all across the globe. We're going to get into not just what happened, but why it sparked such incredibly powerful emotions and what this moment truly signifies.
You see this? This was one of the very first raw reactions that people were sharing. It's not some kind of high-level political analysis, right? It's a deeply personal, almost primal cry of victory. And that emotion? That's really at the very heart of this entire story.
Can you imagine waking up to that? For so many people, this is exactly how the news broke. It wasn't some formal announcement on TV. Nope, it was a crazy flurry of messages from friends, family, followers on social media, all asking the same thing. Is this real? It was this moment of just pure disbelief. Everyone scrambling, checking and rechecking, just hoping it was true. And those reactions, I mean the cheers, the tears of joy that just flooded the internet, they don't come from nowhere. There is a deep, painful history behind all of it. And to really get it, we have to look at a really crucial connection, the one between Venezuela and Cuba. This right here is the central question. Why does an event in Venezuela trigger such a massive reaction from Cubans? You know, on the surface, they might seem like two separate issues. But as you're about to see, their fates have been tangled together for decades, creating this shared experience of suffering, and now a shared moment of hope. So to understand why people are celebrating, you first have to understand the crisis. How on earth did a country with some of the largest oil reserves in the world, I mean literally floating on oil, end up in a state of total and complete collapse? Let's take a look at the key people and events that led us here. First up, the man at the center of it all, Nicolás Maduro. Now, he wasn't the one who started this political project, but he was definitely the one at the helm when it all went catastrophically wrong. He was handpicked by his predecessor, the, let's say, charismatic and very controversial Hugo Chavez. Okay, so let's walk through how this happened. It all starts back in 1999 with Chavez taking power. Then, in 2013, Chavez dies and Maduro takes over. And that's when the country's economy just completely implodes. But the final straw for so many people, it happened just this past year when Maduro flat out denied the election results where his opponents reportedly won by a staggering 70%. 8 million. Just let that number sink in for a second. 8 million people. That's how many have been forced to flee Venezuela under this regime.
And look, this isn't just some abstract statistic. This has created the single largest displacement of people on the entire planet. We're talking about a massive global humanitarian crisis that all stems from the collapse of just one nation.
But here's the thing, Venezuela didn't collapse in a vacuum. The regime was being propped up by some really key international allies. And as we're about to see, none were more important than the government of Cuba. And this quote just perfectly illustrates the relationship, doesn't it? It wasn't just political, it was personal, deeply personal. In Cuba, the propaganda constantly showed Chavez and Castro together almost like a father and son, pushing this idea that they were this unified, inseparable force. So how did this actually work? Well, it was a symbiotic relationship, really. Cuba, with its decades of experience in this area, basically exported its political playbook and its intelligence apparatus to help the Venezuelan regime keep its grip on power. And in return, Venezuela provided Cuba with tons of oil and a vital economic lifeline that kept its own struggling system from going under. And because Venezuela has so much oil, this whole alliance turned the country into a battleground for global influence. It was way bigger than just Latin America. Yep, it wasn't just Cuba. You had other major players getting involved too. We're talking Russia, China, Iran, and even Hezbollah. They all got a piece of the pie, securing control over major petroleum assets in the country. Okay, so Maduro's been captured, everyone's celebrating, awesome. But what happens now? Well, even among the people celebrating, there's a really fascinating and important debate going on about what the best path forward for Venezuela actually is. You can imagine the first reaction was just pure, unadulterated relief and happiness. But as the dust starts to settle, you see this split in thinking emerge, especially when it comes to the role of the United States in whatever comes next. So on one side, you've got this perspective of just total gratitude. God bless the United States Army. They see the U.S. military as a liberator, not just for Venezuela, but for all of the Americas. But on the other side, there's a lot more caution. They're thrilled Maduro's gone, for sure.
But they look at past U.S. interventions in places like Iraq and Afghanistan, and they start to worry. They're concerned about a long, drawn-out occupation instead of a quick handover to Venezuela's legitimately elected leaders. And this all brings us to the final and maybe the most powerful message in all of this. It's really framed as a direct warning from the people who have actually lived under these systems straight to an American audience. Wow. America, please listen to us because the Venezuelans didn't. That's a direct plea. The argument being made here is that Cubans tried, years ago, to warn Venezuelans about the dangerous paths they were heading down, but nobody listened. And now they're turning that very same warning to the United States.
And here's the crucial point they're making. The starvation, the mass migration, the complete loss of freedom, this isn't just bad luck or a bit of mismanagement. No, they argue it's the direct, inevitable result of the political ideology that was put into practice. And they don't mince words about what that ideology is. They explicitly call out socialism as the root cause, describing it as, quote, the most destructive philosophy in the world. That's the ultimate conclusion here, drawn from decades and decades of lived experience. And so we end where they end, with a simple, pretty provocative question aimed right at all of us. After seeing the crisis, the history, the incredible human cost, the final message is really a challenge to just listen, to listen to the stories of the people who actually lived it. The question is, are you?